Starting. There we go. Michael M. Hudlow, author of How Not to F Up a CRM System, learning from others' mistakes, all the way from France.
Yeah, man.
Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm very well. Thanks a lot, Wes.
631 episodes. I think you're the first one I've spoken to from France. So, there's always something new to learn.
There you go. There you go. I'm honored.
So that's cool. I did not know that. We were talking earlier. So France, Florida. So you said your wife is from France?
Yeah, my wife is from the Champagne region of France. So we kind of looked for many years, and just timing was right, and right opportunity and desperate sellers. So we bought our eventual retirement home over here.
Hey, very nice. That works, man. That's cool. So you've been in the CRM space for a minute. What led you to writing this book?
Wow. Well, yeah, I started with CRM. I was, like many people who fall into different technologies, I kind of fell into CRM just because, the company I was with needed something, and I was, ready, willing, and able, and eager to learn. And that was back in like 2008. But specifically, what led me to write this book was several years ago. I became ever increasingly frustrated with seeing, from a consulting side and then obviously from an internal operations side, the same, what I called silly mistakes happening over and over again. And by no fault of the operators or the purchasers or the people that are trying to get things done. And I think they were just, easily put, being led astray by the idea of a CRM system and by the companies who make the CRM systems. And once again, they're selling a product. So it's, hey, it's not on, I'm not trying to blame them either. But there was just a lot of repetitive things, even internally within the same company, that you had the same conversation over and over again. And I just started to get very, very frustrated with it. And almost from a therapeutic or a cathartic thing, I started to say, I literally started writing a sentence out. And I said, this is a book written from the trenches. And then just took off from there. And I couldn't stop writing. I took pauses, but when I got done the book not that long ago, I'm like, I had no idea I had that much to say. And I'm like, I just didn't know. And, when I first started, I said, oh, this is going to be a 150-page book. Because that's kind of like what, other people who have written books that I'm colleagues with said, shoot it on 150 pages, like something somebody can pick up on a transcontinental flight. And, by the time they land on the other coast, they're done. And I'm like, I shot for that. And I went ripping past that to 560 some pages. And you know what? I'm already writing book number 2. I still have more to say. But yeah, it was really written out of frustration. And also, like, when you go to the big trade shows or your local bookstore or Amazon and you pick up a book, it's always, at least I shouldn't say always, in my opinion, it's a lot about, here are the 7 things to do. Here's how to implement this. Here's how to select that. I'm like, you know what? I have a cynical, I like to think, kind of funny view on things. And I'm like, originally the book was How to F Up a CRM System. And I started writing this. I'm like, you know what? This is getting dark. So I'm like, I better flip this a little bit so it has some redeeming quality in the title. But
gotcha.
it made sense to me. And it's like, this is really, and I had enough case studies and I did enough interviews with people to know what mistakes were happening. And I basically just laid out case studies and started to say, if you do this, it might not seem like a big deal at the time, but 2 years from now, you're going to be pulling your system out of a ditch on the side of the road. And let's help you not get there.
Yeah. So who is this written for? Is it for bigger companies using like a Salesforce.com? Is it valuable for smaller businesses using like a Pipedrive or a Keep or Entreport?
Well, I tell you, when I started, I thought it was for the big guys, the Dynamics, and the Salesforce. But the more I wrote it, I realized it didn't matter, because it's not a book for a technologist to pick up and say, flip this switch and use this module or not. It's much more about setting expectations, listening to the business requirements, and not there. Once again, I've seen too many times where people get into the CRM space or use a formal CRM system to keep up with the Joneses, for lack of a better term, and they haven't thought through what that means, they think that whether large company, big company, large platform, smaller, more niche platform, they haven't thought that, what, if they have a poor set of business processes right now, none of these systems are going to fix that. They just can't. A bad process is a bad process. And additionally, once again, big or small, if you don't set expectations at all levels, if your salespeople don't like it, if you're using this for salespeople, it's not going to get used. And so you have to really set expectations, and I would say that it's totally independent of the platform itself. I mean, I was talked to by an editor saying I should pitch it at one of those big markets that you're talking about, and it didn't sit right with me. So it's really, and it also, I wrote it for your system administrator type, all the way up to your, people on the board of the directors that are saying, and I kind of, from that perspective, I thought of it as like, it's not an uncommon thing to have someone 2 years, 3 years, 4 years into the CRM process, and they're like, why are we burning money? Like it's not meeting my expectations. I don't know what we have anymore. Did I get sell a bill of goods by the vendor, the CIO, the CTO? Like, why are we not getting what we need to? So the book is for those individuals as well. It's not written to be overly technical. It's written to be much more practical and kind of saying, lots of people are making the same mistakes. Let's look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see it. I've seen it at all levels. I've been a user since 2000. I mean, using tools. I mean, we were on Siebel and Onyx, and switched to Salesforce.com 2004. Was brought on at Dell when they deployed Salesforce in 2007. Got involved with Infusionsoft 2008, HubSpot 2014.
Isn't that crazy?
And worked with others in between. And it's always like you're talking about the process. People, I have one of my landing pages is process before login. I'm like,
absolutely.
Let's map this stuff out. Like most people, it's like going grocery shopping when you're hungry. They're like, oh, that's a good demo. I click, next thing you know, they're into a system. I'm like, why'd you buy that one? Oh, it had like a cute dinosaur. Like, what?
Yeah, I know. It's true. It's true.
Well, I was drunk. I was at a trade show. They had a sale. I'm like, oh, no.
But what's I talk about that in the book too, about dealing with vendors, and not to the level of what cocktail to order, but certainly to the point of get through the fluff of the sales pitch and see where it aligns to who you are. And they're not your friends. I mean, they can be friendly, but they're not your friends. And true story. A couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to have dinner and drinks with Mark Benioff in Salesforce, and we were talking through some things, and he asked me just candidly, what did I like, what didn't I like, the normal kind of responsible questions, which was really cool. And the first thing I said is, well, man, I wish you'd change the name from Salesforce to something else, because immediately everyone thinks it's only sales, and it's gotten so damn big. It's hard to talk to someone about Salesforce when you're trying to help them with a finance issue or something else. They're like, why would I want to sell? We're not salespeople. We're consultants or whatever. And so, but that was more tongue in cheek. I mean, that was more tongue in cheek. But the one thing I did tell him is I said, you know, the problem is, and I get it, but the problem is that, you know, people have an issue and they pick up their phone and they call their rep, and, you know, dollars to donuts, come Monday morning, there's going to be a flotilla of Salesforce people come through the front door trying to sell them widgets. And the first thing they needed to get is the maximum value of the core objects, or clouds in their term, that they paid for. They don't want to spend more money. They want to get more out of what they already spent. And you know, obviously, if you're a company trying to sell software, that's not ideal for you. You want them to buy more widgets, and it just becomes a frustrating process. And that's no different for any of the big, or any of them, not just the big guys. And you're right. There's lots of people that have purchased this because their buddy on the course recommended it, and all of a sudden they're spending lots of money, and they bought it and they maybe didn't internally vet it. And to the point of my book, a couple of years later, that means you probably didn't do all your internal, you know, BA work and all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you're sitting and going, where are we? Where are we? And I also think, you know, what I tell individuals is that whether you own a CRM system, one of the formal systems that you had mentioned or I'd mentioned, whether you own a CRM system or not, you are already doing CRM work. It's probably just really not well. You know, I mean, you're using Excel spreadsheets, you're using a notepad, but you're doing CRM work. And whether you understand it or not, you do have CRM processes.
Right.
And they're probably terrible. And, you know, they just are. And when you decide to pay usually a lot of money, the reality is that no one likes to hear is the paying part is the easy part. It's the motivational stuff that causes failures of your internal staff, whether it's salespeople or your finance people or your AP or whomever it is, because they weren't part of the game from the day one, and all of a sudden they're getting something pushed upon them that, if the process is not revamped, then you may have people doing more manual work than they've ever done before, and they don't see value on the back end.
Man,
And
I was
you know, what do you
working
expect?
I was working with a client in the last year. They had several CRMs. They had HubSpot, but were barely using it. They were in the security space of the government, so they were concerned about connecting it. So they were manually entering leads into the other CRM, and then to quotes, and then using something else for ticketing and support. And this was not a small company. I mean, they were on track to do $100 million this year.
Right.
And it was a shit show, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, but nobody would listen. And it's like, I don't care how much you pay me. I can't hang out and just go to meetings and be a yes man. I'm like, okay, I think like we're not fit to work together. They brought me on for a little bit, did some consulting, spoke at an event, had a lot of nodding heads, but then everybody's entrenched in their own system. Like, okay, I'm out of here. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a shame. And there's a lot of that. And you know, when you see it, I mean, once again, if you're a betting person, if a lot of times in my experience that there's been, if you see multiple systems, there's usually that system is usually someone's baby. You know, they brought it on, they configured that little, you know, one of those 3 CRMs in your scenario, and they have personally identified with that system, and they're not going to let it go. And you know, and putting in a system that might lose their ability to have track of their own system, or they feel that their fiefdom might get infringed upon, it just spirals out of control. And it's like sometimes, you know, and that goes back to what I was saying before about setting expectations is, you know, a lot of setting expectations is about comforting people to say, look, let's forget about systems right now. Because I mean, to me, the worst thing to do with it, putting a process in play, is developing a process for a technology as opposed to putting a technology in place for a process. And you have to say, are your goals being met? And inevitably in the scenario that you were just saying, I'm sure almost no one's goals are being met, especially if they have people duplicate entry of information. And then you kind of lead them to the path of making the hard decision they have to make. And it doesn't have to be a hard decision, but of course it's not multiple CRMs and a even at $100 million company or a sales company, it's still relatively small enough that I would think they can get by with one CRM. So
Yeah. Well, and on larger companies, I mean, I get it. That's not my world, where you're dealing with ERP integrations
sure.
and crazy things. It's like I'm technical, but I'm not a techie,
Mm-hmm.
and I've stuck with simpler platforms. I mean, HubSpot's pretty damn robust. But still, I'm not getting into the APIs and whatnot. It's like I'm focusing on the big picture. How are you getting your message out there? How are you converting? How are you staying in touch? How are you closing the sale uh, in a streamlined, uh, non-stressful, non-pushy manner? Securing referrals, testimonials, repeat sales. Like, but people they just don't do it. They think the technology is going to save them, and they just dive in. Um,
Yeah,
so
you're right.
can they be
And
saved? Do you help them switch? Do you just help them make do with what they have? Do you try to catch them before they buy something so they don't make a mistake?
well, about 6, 7, 8 months ago, I kind of stepped back, took a step back and reflected, and I started using a tagline of CRM recovery specialist, and people started saying, "What the hell's that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to figure that out myself. I'm not sure if I coined the name before, but I've never heard it before." But it's going along the path of what you're speaking to. I think is that it's at one point, whoever your internal client is at a firm, at one point, someone's got to say, how there's no way we decided to get here 2 years ago. This is not where we wanted to be. And ultimately, where did we go wrong and why did we go wrong? And that's what I like to do when I work with companies is provide them with a no skin in the game, unbiased view of, like, to your point, I think what you were saying before is like, look, this is where you are. I see this and that is the problem. And I can help you get from here to there, or you could just kind of pay me for that advice and I'll move on if but I agree with you. There's no room in these conversations for making someone feel comfy. There's going to be hard decisions and there's going to be hard conversations. What I think is ironic, though, is that many people believe that these changes all come with an enormous price tag, and more times than not, at least in my experience, more times than not, the things that the technology they already own is sufficient, and it's more about training, retooling, business process, and then just getting in like I'll use a salesperson perspective, is to ensure that their manual effort, they have to, the amount that they put in, they get more back from the system than they have to put in. If that's not happening, then you have to start questioning what the system's even for. I mean, because all of these systems are capable to give you insights that you did not know. And it would be a shame if they didn't. And I would say that if I use this example of a piece of pie or pie chart, and say if everybody in their head, regardless of their level as a user of a CRM system, has some slice percentage, let's just call it 10%, of what they call administrative work to do their job. And if you increase that piece of the pie, if you say, hey, you're going to have to now do 11% more, or 2% more, 3% more, and they don't see the reason, you have failed before you've even gotten it through the gate. You must decrease that load. Worst case, keep it the same. And then on top of that, you have to increase the value they perceive out of it. And a lot of time, the perception of value is because they don't even know some of the information they are operating with came from the system itself. They don't, it's like, I don't use, whatever Dynamics. I don't use Salesforce. And you find out, oh, you get the XYZ report every morning. Guess where that comes from? But I never logged in. Yeah, well, you don't have to. It's coming to you, It's kind of the point. So I think a lot of your project teams, whether it's just financial constraints or otherwise, is that the training or the education or the awareness to what you were saying before just doesn't follow, and the systems have a tendency to fall flat as a result.
Yeah. Over the years, I've told more people no to switching than yes. Because they'll come to me, like I said, typically dealing with smaller systems. They're on Entreport. Hey, I want to switch to Infusionsoft or Infusionsoft, going to HubSpot. And I helped a couple of big companies move to HubSpot, but I also helped some companies switch back to Infusionsoft because it was the right thing. They were growing and outgrew the system, or they didn't grow and they needed to scale back. But usually, like I'm telling them, I'm like, I've never figured out how to smoothly ask this question, but it's like I say, tell me what your current / ideal processes are, because usually their current processes are just kind of a shit show. So I have to throw in, what's ideal, because that company, well, we're manually entering leads. We're literally turning around between two screens, typing, thinking like, well, that's not ideal, so to get them thinking properly. Most people, I hold up my iPhone, I'm like, hey, how long have you had the iPhone? Well, since the beginning. I'm like, did you know you can do this? No. It's like, okay, that's in your hand. You're looking at that like 400 times a day and you're using 3% of it. How much of your CRM are you really using?
Right.
Because it's always a user error, or some kind of mental roadblock. Yeah, they may not have the best system, but it's like, you're complaining about your car, but you won't put gas in it, so you're pushing it everywhere. Yeah, that car sucks. I bet if you put gas in it, it'd probably be a lot better.
That was a good analogy. Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's funny. I even said that like about Microsoft Word years ago. It's like, hey, it can now do quadruple reverse mail merge. I'm like, dude, I just need a spell checker. It's like these systems do. To your point, is they do so much more than people are aware of or think about. And it's funny. Look at all the CRMs now that are on people's phones. There all are. And once again, they don't utilize them. And I think there is a suspicion by individuals that the CRM is really there to, kind of covertly track kind of what they're up to and where's the best lead coming from and how productive are they actually. And, and then, you also hear a lot of people saying, I don't want to share my information because that information, my black book of contacts is mine and I don't want to share that. And I don't want you to know what I'm converting. And, so they put in the absolute minimum. And I think, there's a really big learning issue there that you can't expect a system that ultimately requires, collaboration, but it really, at the end of the day, it's sharing, and if you're not good in the sandbox, you're not going to share, then there's no way you're ever going to be happy with the CRM. And then it's just going to become a manual task for you every day of your life. And that goes all the way up and all the way down the line. If you don't see the benefit yourself, then you just became one of the weaklings. And yeah, it's true. Going back to, what you're asking me is like, why did I write the book? I think I wrote a lot for myself. But by doing so, I think I opened up 15, 16 years of hard knocks. I mean, you see them all the time. And I didn't, if someone could buy the book and read it and say, wow, I would have fallen for that trap, then hey man, mission accomplished. And you were mentioning HubSpot before. HubSpot, in my mind, a couple, 3-4 years ago, to me, it almost felt like a mom and pop kind of CRM system, and then it is just blown up. I mean, in a good way. I mean, it's a powerhouse now, and it's incredible to me. I'd be interested. I haven't recently done work with HubSpot. It's been, well, a little bit, but mostly with the the Salesforce, the SAP, Oracle, and then the add-ons, the Marketos and the Pardots and things like that.
Yeah.
It's funny, you mentioned something earlier, and I actually had this conversation a day ago with a head of marketing at a company that was reaching out to me because they were being challenged by the CEO of why they're not using, in this case, it was Salesforce, why they're not using the Marketing Cloud. And I swear this is true. The head of marketing didn't know they owned the Marketing Cloud. I'm like, I mean, I can get it, but I mean, I'm sure it was bundled into their contract to give them some ideal pricing, and probably their contract was coming up for renewal, and then that premier pricing was kind of saying, hey, you might have to pay for the Marketing Cloud now, and someone's going, wait a minute, what do we own? And it's I don't know what that's all about, and it happens a lot where the big guys throw in some new widget they just acquired. They bought out the company, and then to increase their own stock, they throw it in there and to increase sales of that product. And then all of a sudden people are like, wait a minute, we kind of liked it when it was free. We really don't like it when it's not free.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're sitting on top of things. We don't even know it. That old acres of diamonds, right? You're sitting on top of what you need. Just focus,
Oh, sure.
They're doing trials and going to webinars and like, dude, just slow down. The joke we always make in jiu-jitsu is like, stop watching YouTube, go train, go hands-on.
That's a good one.
And I tell the story all the time. Like when COVID hit, our school shut down for a couple months, and this guy's got an online program. He's an accomplished jiu-jitsu competitor, but now he's got a video series, and he brings people in, and they create content. And he said, hey, I'm giving away, go pick any course. I'm giving away a course while you're at home, and maybe having to just train at home with a friend. And then he gave a coupon for 50% off another. I'm like, well, I'll buy something, right? So I got the free one, and I bought another one. And so one of them, they were like 90 minutes long, and it was like on one particular sequence. And I spent 90 minutes to only get through half of it. So rewind. Where's the hand? Where's the left hand? Where's the right hand? Where's the knee? Blah, blah, blah. So for 90 minutes, I studied it. Like, okay. And then the next day I went into class, and I messed up the entry. Like literally after 90 minutes of study, I messed up in the first 2 seconds of going. And I was like, stop, I grabbed my phone, loaded it. Oh, so it's like, the old adage, no battle plan survives engagement with the enemy. Right. But you still plan, but you got to go hands on, click a button, turn this thing on, and see what happens.
Right. There's that quote from, and I'm going to butcher it probably, but from Mike Tyson. It says, like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Exactly. Dude, it's true. Again, talking about jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm a grown man. I played Division I football. I'm a big dude. I started jiu-jitsu in my first little in-house tournament. It was just not some big arena, not on ESPN. Wasn't a PPV, right? It was like, 100 people gathered around, and just guys going through different, my first one, couldn't talk, cotton mouth, forgot. I mean, I only been training, like I started in January and that was September of 2017. So what, 8 months?
Yeah.
And so I was by no means an expert, and but just forgot everything. I literally the opening move I did was taught to me on the Friday before that Saturday. I'm like, okay, I'll just use that one because it was fresh in my mind. Like so until you do this over and over and over again, it's not normal. It's not natural. You're going to be
No.
nervous. You're going to be anxious. You got to work out the kinks. You got to figure out what works for you. Because, my instructor, he's a little guy. I'm 70 pounds bigger than him, I don't know, 6 inches taller.
Right.
I can't do the same moves he can do. So I've got to take what somebody gives me, then apply it, but then massage it, but that never happens. These corporate, that's why I always tell people, if you're looking for CRM, go to somebody like you or me, like an independent agent who will shoot straight with you. Because if you go to a Salesforce guy, then the solution is Salesforce, period. And it's like, it may not be the solution.
No, I fully agree with you. And that's actually why in consulting world, I came up with like these packages, for lack of a better term, that, it's kind of like, a 2-week gig. And at the end of 2 weeks, I'm saying goodbye. I mean, that's the intent. And I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to tell you, I see this. I think you should go this way or that way. Take it or leave it. And obviously, there's detailed conversations in there. But you're right. And any one of the vendors, their solution will solve your problem in their eyes, without a doubt. But no doubt.
Well. Do you do this on site, or is it remote, or a little mixture?
Anything that they want. I have no problem jumping on a plane and going anywhere, or nowadays obviously so much is remote. I think a lot of it is better still on site, just because I was talking about people being suspicious, or look, I have a chapter in my book called Saboteurs and Assholes, and yeah, I kind of straight shooter like you, I think. And it's really about the fact that
I still have little kids at home, so I would call them poopy heads.
Okay, yeah, the poopy head people. It's like, they're not going to budge. They've been doing whatever you're doing for 40 years, and you're not getting them to budge. And if you don't get them to budge, or at least be quiet about it, they are going to ultimately be some kind of virus that grows behind your project. And one day, if they have people that work for them, well, they're going to say they're supporting your system, but they're not. And they're going to still have their people doing their Excel spreadsheets. And now you have people doing duplicative work that's just going to kill you. So you're really, and the only, and I shouldn't say the only way, but it's much easier to find that stuff when you're sitting across the table from someone. But it can't happen. It can't happen. And obviously, if it's a huge world organization, it becomes harder as well.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, like, well, what's your experience in, ABC CRM in the XYZ industry? I'm like, none, which is why you need to bring me in. I'm like, what? It's like, I'm not coming in with any preconceived notions or biases. You need some fresh.
I'm going to steal that line. I like that. You're exactly right. And also, I think it's also interesting. There's a study to be done here of why they think you have to have is it more important for you to have XYZ experience in some niche market, or would you rather have a person that is an expert in why these things fail unilaterally? Like, which one's more important to you? Because the only way you're going to get somebody that has that niche expert, they're not going to be very good in all the things, in my opinion, that really matters in the CRM space. So, it's funny, but you're right. Bring me in, and then I'll become that.
Yeah, I won't become an expert on that system, but at the end of the day, it's like, a friend of mine I do jujitsu with is my mechanic, and he's good. Okay, maybe he hasn't worked on a 1970 Aston Martin, but he can probably figure it out,
Of course.
you know. And of course, it, you know, like we've had all kind of cars. There's a European expert here, shop. Okay, I had a BMW, had a couple of them. All right, I'd go there. We had a diesel excursion. All right, there's the diesel shop. Okay, all things being equal, we'd go to them because they are experts in those things. But I know Sean. I trust Sean. If Sean can't work on something, he tells
Right.
me. But overall, he's like, I'll figure it out. And if it took him longer to figure it out, he doesn't charge me for it. You know, so I'm like, okay, he gets to learn. I get an honest assessment, you know, because at the end of the day, these CRMs, they're 90% the same.
Even more so.
Yeah.
You know, I along the lines of what you're talking about is, you know, I said, look, all of these systems, all of them, you know, 30, 40, however many there are, they all can do whatever you need them to do. The question is not the technology. It is not. It is something other than the technology, because the technology can do it. Yes, it might take an extra day in this system versus that system or whatever, but it's not the technology. It's what you are willing to commit to, how, to what level leadership is going to champion the effort. You know, do people see the benefit? Do they get rewarded or even punished for being a good digital corporate citizen or not? But it's not the system. The systems all work very, very well. And you know, you're exactly right. First off, if you're hiring a you or a me, you're not hiring me to sit in front of a keyboard and create forms and flip switches. Okay. I know when I see, hey, that is failing, we need to get an XYZ expert in here. That's you know, that's for, quite frankly, somebody probably in their 20s that has, you know, just got the certification in that particular thing. The experience that comes along with, you know, 15, 20 years worth of, you know, seeing horror. that's what you're getting with people like such as ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool, man. So
All
it's
right.
how not to F up a CRM system. Michael M. Hudlow. So your website, I'll still probably mess it up, but
It's
Bitsia CRM,
CRM.com. Yes, sir.
but it's not like it sounds. It's BITXIACRM.com.
That's right. That's
All right.
right.
I know there's a history there, but I'll let our readers, our listeners go check it out and learn for themselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, man, it's good catching up. I don't know if I'll see you in France, but I mean, my relatives, I probably got relatives from there. You know, I'm from Louisiana, so we were all
Very
all French. You know, my
Yep, just with an accent.
Pouchots and Delacroix, and you know, literally half my family. My grandmother didn't even speak English till she was like 8 or 9 years old. You know, it was a Cajun French. You
Oh
know,
yeah, man.
but French.
It's a beautiful region, and amazing food, and the intertwining of so many cultures in that area, in Louisiana areas, it's incredible.
Yeah, I love getting back. All
All
right,
right,
cool,
well,
man. Well,
take care. Thank you so much for your
it's time for
time.
you to have some champagne, huh? So I'm gonna
Yeah,
let you go.
it's just after 8 p.m. Yeah, man. All right, well, take care. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, good to see you.
Thank you.